Hello everybody, my name is Carolyn Summers. I'm a landscaper and an author. In fact, you can find my book, which is called Designing Gardens with Flora of the American East, right here in Livingston Manor at Lisa Lyons' shop called Morgan Outdoors. So I'm here to talk about all the wonderful plants you can put in your garden that are actually on display here, some of them. There are, of course, thousands of plants you could choose, but native plants are really important to put in our gardens because they're the ones that not only attract the most butterflies and bees, but also service their reproductive needs, like the milkweed for the monarchs, but there's many other plants that butterflies and bees need that are special to them. Let me talk about the ones that are right next to us, right here, so you can see what I'm talking about. So right here we have, this is heliopsis, helianthoides. Is a particularly nice cultivar with really nice, I guess you would call them they're almost black, but they're really dark purple stems and the beautiful ray flowers. And these flowers inside are actually where the nectar is, and those are the true flowers. And that's where the pollen and the nectar would be for bees and for butterflies. And the heliopsis also attracts hummingbirds, but it's very special for bees. And in the sunflower family in general, which this is a member of, there are over 70 species of insects that need these plants, especially for their reproductive purposes, or in the case of bees, for their pollen. So another plant here that we want to talk about, this is common ninebark, otherwise known as Physocarpus opulifolius. But common ninebark has a number of special qualities in terms of its loveliness. It comes in very many different leaf colors. So in addition to the plain green with white flowers, which is also lovely, you can get cultivars like this with tiny little purpley leaves. They have shreddy bark, which you can't see right now, but during the winter adds a lot of interest. The Physocarpus has special value for bees, that would be in the flowers, and the leaves themselves, there are 7 species that use it, including the unicorn caterpillar. And if none of you have ever seen a unicorn caterpillar, you really should look for them because they're quite stunning and cute. They look a little bit like dinosaurs. So on to the grasses. So over here we have Sporobolus heterolepis, which is a mouthful. It's also called Prairie Dropseed. And the Prairie Dropseed, like many of our grasses, supports all of the life cycle of our skipper butterflies, the little ones that you see skipping around. And all of those use the grasses, all of our native grasses, including Sporobolus, for their reproductive needs. So this is an excellent example right here of how you can use native plants in a cosmopolitan, urban, suburban, commercial district setting, as well as in your own garden. So all of these plants are really, really tough. They'll take whatever you can throw at them. They're drought tolerant. They're not fussy about soil. In fact, they really don't need soil amendments. Some plants don't even like too much fertilizer. So an impoverished, dry site is perfect for many of these plants, especially those that we were talking about in the sunflower family. Many of those really like this kind of dry, hot, sunny site and will perform well and will provide all of the needs of the butterflies and bees that we were just talking about. Hi, here we are at Bee Central. Lots of bee activity on these coneflowers. So coneflowers, as most of you probably know, is Echinacea, purpurea, and it's a beautiful long flowering plant. The seeds are beloved by goldfinches, so if you do grow them, leave the seed heads on. Don't prematurely take them off, because in the middle of winter your goldfinches will be gnashing on those. We have lots of bees. Like maybe we could take a few close-ups of the bees so you can see for yourself how much activity we have here just in this one small clump. And so if you magnify that small clump by 5, 10, 15, you can see that you're really supporting a lot of bee activity. So you'll see lots of bees, lots of different types of bees using a lot of these plants. Now, the bumblebees are the easiest for us to spot and to learn. but there are many, many kinds of bees. And some of the bees that use these plants that are specialists are very hard to identify. So we're probably not going to get into that in this presentation, but it's important to notice that there are the big bees, the bumblebees, and then if you see something that looks maybe like a little metallic colored, that might be one of the mason bees, or even some of them look like tiny little flies. And those are all special bees, and those are all our native bees that we need to keep pollinating our native plants and our vegetables and our fruit trees. And welcome to Pollinator Central. So as you can see to my left, we have a large bank of mostly Monarda fistulosa. We've got a few coneflowers, some daisy Fleabane right next to me, which is kind of a wildflower that comes in on its own, and lots of bees and skipper butterflies, and we've got some fritillaries, and what else do we have? Lots and lots of skippers right now. But this is a kind of area that you could use in any foundation planting or any border area. And it's nice to have a lot of these flowers all at once blooming, because bees have something that they're kind of, they don't have long lifespans, so they have to kind of make hay while the sun shines. So if you have lots and lots of the same flowers in the same area, they will tend to stay there. They will come, they will be faithful. They will come every day while they're in bloom, and they'll give you lots of excitement and lots of opportunities. If you like to photograph wildlife, which is what I do, I just come out of my house and here they are. We also have, in addition to there it is. There's our swallowtail. Hello. Swallowtail butterfly hanging out with bees. You have all the butterflies and bees right at literally at your fingertips. So on my left, we have Hypericum shrubs. This is Hypericum prolificum. Over here in back of me, we have Hypericum frondosum, and that one's called Sunburst, and that one is probably the one you're most likely to find in a nursery. But these are wonderful shrubs to have because they are drought resistant. They flower profusely in the middle of summer, and they're deer resistant. So why these are not in every nursery, I cannot tell you, but it's a great plant. They're very, very carefree plants. They have a nice, naturally rounded shape. They don't need to be pruned, or you don't have to really do anything with them. So I can really recommend these, and they're very, very pollinator friendly, as you can probably see. And together with these, this is Monarda fistulosa. This is my favorite Monarda. It actually smells nice. In the sun, it sort of gives off that sort of lavendery sort of fragrance. It's also called wild bergamot. That's the common name. But it's probably, I would say, the most bee-friendly of the Monardas. And also, of course, you can see there's a butterfly over there. There's more butterflies. A lot of skippers are using it. So it's a really wonderful pollinator plant. We also have a wild plant that comes into my garden that I encourage. This is daisy Fleabane. So daisy Fleabane is an annual, a native annual, and it comes in on its own. And if you welcome it into your garden, it's really a spectacular filler plant. And it has a very, very long blooming season and very, very pollinator friendly. So here we have another Monarda. This is Monarda raspberry wine. And you can see it has that wonderful raspberry color. And the actual buds look very much like raspberries. And this is another big favorite of the bees and the butterflies. And for some reason, my hummingbird moths really, really like this place and really, really like this particular Monarda. So, I mean, I'll find them on fistulosa too, but I can reliably find just 3 or 4 buzzing around most days on a sunny day. So, welcome to Spicebush. Spicebush is a lovely plant that will take some sun, actually quite a lot of sun if there's enough moisture, but is generally found at the edge of the woods in a moist, shady area. It blooms at the same time that the forsythia blooms, almost at exactly the same time, but a much paler, softer yellow. It's male and female like hollies. So you need, if you want the berries, which are very delicious for birds, and actually people can eat them too as a seasoning, but they're full of fats, which the birds migrating south need in the fall, and that's when they ripen. And in order to get the berries, you need male and female plants, which means probably you should buy more than one, like maybe 5, because it's really hard to tell the male from the female. So most nurseries will not be able to tell you which are which, like they can do with hollies, but they can't really do that with Spicebush. So you're kind of on your own. But if you buy enough of them, and they are lovely, lovely plants, they have beautiful spicy leaves. You crush them up and you smell them. Sometimes on a hot day, they'll just waft through the air. And you can also find yourself with a surprise. So I'm going to show you the surprise now. Some of you with really sharp eyes may have noticed that some of the leaves are folded over. Well, the reason that they're folded over is because they're hiding something. They're hiding something very, very special. So I'm going to take a peek into this one. And what do we see? We see a Spicebush caterpillar butterfly. A butterfly caterpillar. A Spicebush caterpillar. So that caterpillar belongs to the black Spicebush swallowtail butterfly. That's what it will turn into after it's gone through metamorphosis. In the meantime, it's this cute caterpillar with the big eye spots, which are meant to scare off birds. They're supposed to think it's a snake or something. Unfortunately, I don't think that's working too well here today or this week, because we used to have a few more. I think the birds have been eating them, because I could only find 4 today. But I'm hoping that a few of them make it through and fledge and become the beautiful black swallowtail. So now we have buttonbush here. Buttonbush is a wonderful plant that you can grow in just about any kind of situation. Right now it's in a fairly, it's at the edge of a pond, but you don't have to have a pond to have a buttonbush. And as you can probably see from some of the activity, this is a really good pollinator tree. It's got bees, it's got butterflies, and it's, again, another very tough kind of plant that you don't have to baby. It will grow in just about any kind of situation. And it can grow at the edge of the woods. It can grow in full sun, and you can cut it back if it gets too big. You can also buy miniature ones. They sell miniature ones now. What's it called? I can't think of it. But it's a wonderful sort of funny looking ball shape. Almost looks like a spaceship or a planet. And all these little planets, and all of the there's the monarch. And we had a couple of swallowtails a few minutes ago. Lots and lots of bees, although they're a lot harder for you to be able to videotape. But there's lots of little bees all over this plant. Another great pollinator plant. Hi, so here I am standing in the middle of one of my flower beds. Not where I usually stand, but I wanted to make sure you could all see that this accident of letting the milkweed grow up in the middle of my flower bed actually produced something very exciting. Monarch caterpillar. So if you grow this particular milkweed, this is common milkweed. It's a clonal plant, so it runs underneath those logs and comes up in the middle. If you want a more well-behaved milkweed, which will also do the same thing, which will attract monarch caterpillars, you probably want to stick with either swamp milkweed, the pink one, or butterfly milkweed, which is the orange one. Both of those are wonderful garden plants and will give lots and lots of food, provide lots and lots of food for the monarch and their caterpillars. Here we have some butterfly weed. Butterfly weed is the orange milkweed. It also serves as the host plant for the monarch caterpillars. It's very well behaved, so it will stay put in your garden. It will, if you let it go to seed, it will actually seed itself in, which is a good thing, but it will not spread by runners like the big pink one. This is a very unusual and lovely color to have in your garden, and works really well with some of your purples and blues. So I highly recommend this one. So this is Veronicastrum virginicum, also known as Culver's root. It's a real favorite of bees. And I happened to see a few minutes ago, and it will probably come back, a red-belted bee. Now, bumblebees are kind of hard to tell apart, and I'm no expert on telling one bumblebee from another, or even one strange little bee like this one. I'm not any expert at how what they're really called, except I did learn this one because it's got a red belt. So this is the red-belted bumblebee, and this particular specimen and species of Culver's root is actually called Lavender's Towers, which is why it's so purpley colored. Usually they're white, but this is a cultivar called Lavender Towers, and it's actually very, very high in nectar, which is why it's attracting so many bees right now. Welcome to the vegetable garden. Now, if you have space in your garden, in your vegetable garden, if you're growing vegetables, one of my favorite tricks is to grow a few flowers. Now, of course, it's nice to just be able to see them while you're watering, but actually they serve a purpose. So when you have big blossoms and lots of flowers, it will attract the attention of more bees. And you want bees in your garden to pollinate your tomatoes. Bees are the very best pollinators for tomatoes. Did you know that they do something special called buzz pollination? And that's something that only bumblebees do. Honeybees don't do it. Really, bumblebees are the best for your tomatoes. And also squashes. So the squash blossoms, let's see the squash blossoms over here. They have sort of gone to sleep for the evening, but this morning, earlier this morning when I came out, there was no shortage of bumblebees all throughout these beautiful squash flowers. And they're doing that pollinating work for free. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you'll plant some more native plants. Thank you for supporting the Sullivan Renaissance program. And if you're interested, my book is called Designing Gardens with Flora of the American East, and it can be found at Morgan Outdoors in Livingston Manor. Thank you very much.